Hello and welcome back to Hustings 2014. Are we having a good time? Yeah, it's getting better. Now, I've been told to sort of stall the proceedings for a little bit, so I thought I'd tell a personal story. Now, back when I was about 5 years old, those at the back, I think you might enjoy this, hopefully. Back when I was about 5 years old, I was sitting at dinner one night, and my mum and dad had to take me to hospital pretty much straight away because I had 7 peas stuck up my left nostril. I'd got so bored at dinner that I decided to stick food up my nostrils. Now, this wouldn't have been so bad if a week later I then wasn't in hospital again for a procedure which they had to invent to get peas out of my nostril to suck 11 pieces of sweet corn out of my right nostril. Oh, come on, that was kind of funny. Give me a... yeah, right, cheers. So, anyway, up next is the VP Education debate. Now, the VP Education is in charge of the degree subjects, obviously, at the university. They're in charge of looking towards making sure that you get fair representation in the event of ethical misconduct. So, like coursework or something happens, they're there to sort of give you additional support. Now, I believe that Alan will be coming to the stage in a second. Keep going. Does anybody in the audience have a joke that they'd like to share? Let's bring some audience participation. Anybody, please. Lorna, please, joke? Yeah. At the back. What is your joke, sir? Shout it out. I'll repeat it. As long as it's not rude. So we have, we'll have a little bit of a debate on Twitter about these jokes. I got hit on the head by a bottle of Coke the other day. Luckily, it was a soft drink. Bit of. Anybody else over this side? Anybody got a joke over here? Come on, now is your time to shine. Otherwise, I'm going to jump into the audience and... yes. What do you call? What did the surprise cheese say? You've Gouda pre-kidding me. Oh dear. This is a slightly awkward moment now when the tumbleweed rolls across. No, it's fine, you tried. Anybody else with a joke? Come on, yes. What do you call a cheese that isn't yours? Nacho cheese. This is just cheesy now. So is everyone enjoying the whole Hustings event? Yes. Yeah? They've put me on stage with very little to say. Coming up after the VP Education, we actually have the VP Sports and Recreation with Charlie. That's good. Okay, we're looking forward to that debate. So, can I just say, however, thank you to the people who stayed. Because as I was walking up here, a lot of people started to leave, and I think that's kind of rude, personally. And these were candidates. These weren't members of the public, so to speak. These were actual candidates. I won't, again, name names, but if you were a candidate and you left, I think that's kind of says a bit about you, potentially. So, anyway, on a more happy note, Alan, come to the stage. Alan. So we're now going to go to the VP Education Hustings with Alan Sutherland.
Hello. We keep on losing our little foam tip. Right, I'll just unpack my beautiful Microsoft Surface RT tablet, and you too could have one like this. We will be giving one lucky student a brand new, not like this, not covered in sticky fingers, a brand new Surface tablet. We've all been using them, they're lovely. Just simply make sure that you vote and you get your friends to vote. And if we reach the magic figure of 3,753, we'll be giving one away. Right, we are going to proceed with the candidates for VP Education. This is a phenomenally important role because if there's one thing that connects everybody on this campus, it is, we hope, education. And it is a particularly stressful role because it's the candidate, it's the officer that has to sit on the most committees. It's the officer that has to consume the most amount of acronyms and jargons and technical information. And if you think about it, the whole university is all around education and educators who've been doing this job for many decades, and you're going to come in brand new, and you have to be the voice of everybody on this subject. So it's a big task, and we have some big candidates for the role. Please welcome to the stage now your candidates for VP Education, and very shortly we shall introduce them on the big screen.
The candidates for Vice President Education: Zoe Field, Harriet Oliver.
Hi, my name's Harriet Oliver and I'm running for VP Education. I'd like to use my experience here as an undergrad and a postgrad here at Surrey University to give you the best representation possible.
Jasmine Plummer.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Plummer and I'm running for VP Education. I think you should vote for me because I'm confident enough to represent the student voice in every different situation.
Matt Sadlers.
Hi, I'm Matt Sadlers and I'm running for VP Education. And the reason that you should vote for me is that I'm very passionate about education at Surrey.
Ashley Susie.
Hi, I'm Ashley Susie and I'm running to be your VP Education. Vote for me because I'm trying to bring a wider sense of community.
Thank you, the candidates for VP Education. You'll notice there was 5 introductions there. We have 4 on the stage. I'm afraid that Zoe is unwell this evening, but her manifesto is here for you to read, and I'm sure she'll be able to tweet answers when she's feeling better, but she's still very much a candidate in the race, just cannot be with us this evening. Right, you know the score by now. They've all had a question in advance, and I'm going to go from my left to my right. And I'll have to explain this to the audience as well. So the question is, with the rise of VLE technology and the popularity of MOOCs, why should I pay £9,000 to come to Surrey when I can be taught for free on a Harvard MOOC? Those acronyms, I explained, this is a tough job. VLE is Virtual Learning Environment. You will know it as Surrey Learn, the ability to learn remotely at home. MOOC is a massively online open course. It's a new trend started in America where 20, 30, 40,000 people enroll in a course, usually for free, and Harvard are doing a lot of them. So, once again, with the acronyms explained, by the way, you don't get that opportunity in a university committee, with the rise of VLE technology and the popularity of MOOCs, why should I pay £9,000 to come to Surrey when I can be taught for free on a Harvard MOOC?
Hi, I'm Ashley Susie. I believe that anyone can be taught. However, there's a big difference between teaching yourself online and being taught at a university. University is an experience, and it's the skills that are learned in a lecture room that are much more than just what's written on a board. It's the ability to communicate with a large number of students with many different thoughts, with great organization and mainly time management. Furthermore, university, especially here at Surrey, is a community of students from all over the world, all going through the same pressures. When we get feedback and we need clarification, we can go up to our lecturers and talk through any sort of confusions, and they can help to discuss on how to improve from there. But beyond our own courses, we meet others from all of the faculties, which again brings a lot more perspectives and gives us a chance to expose ourselves to different cultures and interests that we otherwise would never have been exposed to. With Surrey's large variety of society and sport, there's truly something for everyone here. Though there are some merits to VLEs, or virtual learning environments, the experiences that you get from university far exceed that than your study desk.
Thank you very much. Carry on.
Basically, what distinguishes university from a MOOC is all of the extra things that we've been hearing so much about, which is education in itself, not from an academic point of view, but from the point of view of increased your personal education. What will happen is in a MOOC, 120,000 people will sign in and they will say, yeah, I want to learn this. And then what will happen is 95% of them will drop out, about 95%. It was mentioned that they're free, but the accreditation isn't free, so there's a small amount of fee, but it won't be as much as coming to Surrey. But then say you get 7,000 people in a MOOC that pass the course, and they all go for the same job. What distinguishes you from the next person who also graduated this course? Well, it's all the things you do at university. It's all the things that develop you as a person. Things like this, sitting up on stage and weeing your pants about it. And just becoming a more rounded person so that you can go out into the real world, into work, and then that is what is different about Surrey. And if the question was why Surrey and not somewhere else, well, it's obvious. It's because Surrey is amazing.
Thank you very much. Jasmine.
I don't really think that the question should be why should you come to the University of Surrey over one of the MOOC courses, because it should be what do you want out of your university experience. If you want a piece of paper that says what you've done, then do a MOOC and you won't get any of the extra things. But if you want the experiences and the interactions with peers, lecturers, the ability to ask questions individually, then you should come to a university. And this is where Surrey is really strong, and we've come 8th in the country, so it shows that we obviously are there for the students. But I still believe that there is so much more that we can build on this, and there's so many other things that we can do to make universities higher than the MOOCs, because the MOOCs are growing and they will be able to benefit in other ways, but that's where we have to make a difference in the future.
And finally, Harriet.
The benefit of coming to Surrey over an online learning environment, I think, is because you get the whole university experience. So that's either socially through the clubs and societies that you can do, or either if that's just going to the union on a Friday night or a Wednesday night. There's also the academic benefits, so you have more resources, the access to the library and access to lecturers who can give you advice and feedback. The Harvard course in particular is run by an institution called edX, and although they have the input from the academic staff at Harvard, the courses are actually monitored by teaching assistants. So I think you have the different sort of access there. And only a few of the online courses that are offered by Harvard have a verified certificate. So as Matt pointed out, you do have to pay an additional fee for that. And also, although you may pass with the verified certificate, that might not be accredited by all universities. So in addition to that, not all of the courses have prerequisites either. So coming into Surrey, you'd have had to have achieved an entry requirement. So that sets the standard. So I think the MOOCs in particular are difficult to regulate. So whether that's lowering standards at all is something that possibly needs to be discussed. So I think that they can be used as an extracurricular activity, but I don't necessarily think they should be supplemented for a university degree.
Thank you. Right, as you know, yes, round of applause. Very good. These are some tricky issues that VP Education had to deal with. Also, it's one thing to be able to deal with these terms and theories in a university committee, but as you've just learned, you then have to convey those thoughts to the student population who perhaps have not spent as much time on Google looking at MOOCs as you have. Now, let's look at your individual manifestos, and Harriet, I'm going to look at yours first. You have down here as an idea a VP Education surgery. To promote more personal experience and fully engage with students, I want to establish a weekly surgery session in the library whereby students come and discuss issues personally. Good idea, one that Sam Ratzer used to do. Now, you will collect reams of feedback from those kind of surgery sessions, which is great. But what do you do next? What do you do with all this feedback? Once you just spend your time asking people what their problems are, what do you do with it?
I think the obvious answer is to sort of see if there's any similarities, any generalisations, because I think that's possibly, if lots of people are saying it, then something clearly needs to be done about it. With regards to our manifestos, lots of, well, I think quite a few of us put graduate fairs and sort of graduate employment services. So I think that would be something to look at. I think you can either collate them either in sort of doing surveys or using survey data collating, but I think it's sort of see what the general issues are and then rank them in order of preference to see which are actually reasonably applicable and what you can actually achieve.
Thank you. By the way, Twitter asks you very much if you'd all like to smile for the cameras. You're not at a funeral. You're here at a pleasurable experience. Right. Jasmine, everybody should be able to comment on their education. That's one of your points. You say this as if they're not able to do that at the moment. We've got modular evaluation questionnaires. We have the Shape Your Surrey survey. We've got the National Student Survey. We've got our comprehensive course rep system with the course rep assembly. At the moment, everybody can comment on their education. Exactly how can they not?
I think that one of the issues is the MEQs and all the surveys that we do, they're only at the end of each semester or at the end when you're finished.
Well, you can't survey on something that hasn't happened yet.
No, but you can have opinions during the course. And I know your course reps are there, but what I found, especially in my course when it's so large, is the course reps get so lost and nobody actually knows who they are, which is why I think that A, making the course reps more available, more approachable, and better known is a first start.
Well, sorry, can I ask what course are you doing?
Aerospace engineering.
Okay, a large course?
Yeah.
How many in the cohort?
In our specific course, about 70, but in our broad course, which we're also connected to, about 300.
Oh, okay.
So I think that that's a big point. But then I also find that things like the student common room aren't used enough, which is on VLE, which is on Surrey Learn, because if you have a question or an issue, it's highly likely that other people are going to have that issue too. So it would be quite nice for people to be able to open their opinions on things like that a lot more and make it a bit more well known.
Okay, thank you. Matt, now, let's have a look at yours. You talk about faculty-specific training.
Yes.
Are you a course rep yourself?
I'm not, no.
No, okay, so you won't know that there's actually faculty-specific training for course reps.
Like this habit, for example.
Like that handbook, for example.
Yes.
So, being that it already exists, you want to pledge to introduce something that's already here.
No. Is the obvious answer to that. No.
You want to
'Cause it's
abolish
already
something
here.
that's already here.
No, I want to improve it.
You want to improve it.
Because, for
Explain
example,
how you're going to improve it.
Okay, cool. For example, this book here, which I've presented quite lovely, it has a lot of things in it about the faculty, which seems to have been written for every faculty and then cut across. The only thing in here that is unique is it gives the name of the librarian for the faculty. It says in here, for example, you will have lunch with the dean of your faculty. No name of who that person is. You will have lunch with the faculty registrar. No name of who that is. There's no who is responsible for your course, although you should know that already. But it's always helpful to refer to this when you want to know things like that, which was more the point of what I was saying. I'm aware that it exists. I've spoken to my course rep. I've spoken to the VP Education about this. I just feel that that's something that needs to be improved.
Okay, thanks very much. Ashley, now let's just flick to yours. Let's find it. Tucked away down the bottom in your last sentence.
Beautifully tucked away.
Sorry, beg your pardon?
I think it's beautifully tucked away.
Beautifully tucked away, we've got a little sentence here. As we face new challenges with regard to funding and changes in education in the country. What changes are you referring to when you talk about changes in education?
There's a lot of governmental talk about the education here in the UK. I know when going to a rep course assembly, when we met with the Vice Chancellor, some people were concerned about the rise of tuition fees beyond £9,000 and the sort of complex issues that obviously tuition fees come with is the running of the country as a whole, which obviously, as VP Education, there's a lot of lobbying you can do, but we're not the Prime Minister, unfortunately. And so that's what I'm talking about, is looking specifically at the excellence. So we're constantly rising, Surrey being at 8th, which is incredible, because when I first came here, we were in like the late 20s, if you know me, like 28 or so, when I had first come in. It's raised up to 8, which is incredible. So there's a lot of like pressure on the university to actually provide amazing quality services, to actually justify the £9,000. But then when you have other things from our national media inferring that the tuition fees could go up because there are deficits and things to hold up, there's a lot to actually hold underneath.
Thanks very much. I think a round of applause for a great round of questions. Now, Ashley, you've brought up the figure 8. There's a massive 8 hanging. It's like, Albert Speer's banner at Nuremberg as you come in, how, this is the 8th best university in the universe. It is, of course, from the Guardian League table. The Guardian is heavily weighted on the NSS. If you could predict where the University of Surrey will arrive in the Guardian this year, do you think it will be higher, lower, or the same as 8th position? Matt, give us a question. Give us an answer. I'll give you the question.
I think it'll be around the same position. I would hope that it would go up and it would increase. But I feel that that's where we're at the moment as the university.
Okay,
is
so
around
you
that
think
position.
that the University of Surrey is still a top 10 university?
Yes, I do, and that's what the Vice-Chancellor is aiming for, and that's his message, and that's what everyone's working towards at the university.
Okay. Jasmine, where would you predict the university be in the Guardian League table this year?
I personally think that we probably have gone down. Because of being at such a high position, we've had such an intake of students, but not the funding and not the infrastructure to be able to cope with that. And this means that at the end of the day, the lecturers are spread so thin across the students, how much can they actually benefit you? And this is why I think that we're going to have to do a lot more improvement in the infrastructure that the students get for them to be able to keep improving themselves.
Thanks. Harriet?
I think for this coming year, I think sort of top 10 still, but whether that will carry on sort of within the next 5 years, I think remains to be seen.
And Ashley?
There you go.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
There you go. I'd like to think that it will stay exactly where it is, at least in the top 10 this year, because despite all of the complications each faculty has had with different issues for each faculty, if you will, it's still a very good university. The quality that we're still putting out is amazing, and it's shown through the students and their ability to get graduate jobs. So.
Thank you. I do have to say hello to Sharon. She was one of the female presidents we were talking about 20 years ago, and she's watching tonight. Hello, Sharon. Right, okay. You heard before the VP Welfares that you are members of university panels. You'll sit on academic appeals. Hopefully none of you will ever have to go through that. The most common problem is plagiarism. So, really, do you have the courage to course terminate a student? Because you will be sitting on the panel. So at what point do you feel that course termination for cheating or plagiarism is appropriate? Harriet.
I think that there should be 3 stages, sort of the 3-strike system. I think there's something similar in place at the moment. So I think in the first instance, I think the coursework, if it's coursework or an exam, should be disallowed, so you don't get the marks for that module. If it happens again, I think the coursework again should be disallowed, and you should be made to go on to like a training session or get some information about it, to help you not do it again. And I think in the third instance, if it happens again, I think that is a serious case for a course termination, if those sort of predetermined things don't work in the previously.
So you would let somebody take notes into the exam 3 times before they got terminated?
I think possibly, yes.
Okay. Ashley?
I think I know it sounds a bit on the fence, but it's entirely up to the circumstance. Bringing notes into an exam, for example, is foul play for all intents and purposes. It's not fair to the others who are trying to actually get a good degree, an honest degree. So I think you honestly, with being VP Education, you have to think about not only what this individual student has done, but how that reflects onto all the other students and whether or not that kind of reflects the cohort's ideas. With regards to plagiarism, there are times where we may have accidentally plagiarized or may have played around with words. That happens quite a lot. I know at least in my course sometimes that can happen a few times. Then a 3-point penalty where you have to remind them, this is what plagiarism is and this is how you don't do it, would be appropriate. So I think it's based off of what the offense would be.
Okay, Jasmine?
I think by the time that it gets to a board situation, it's going to be at that point where they have done it once before, they've been let off or not been allowed their coursework.
Just clarify, every case goes to a panel.
Every case.
It doesn't have to be second or third offence. You get caught with notes in an exam, you're sitting in front of a panel.
Well, you're meant to represent the majority of the students, and I feel that the majority of the students are going to be the ones that aren't plagiarising, aren't cheating, and aren't trying to up themselves in a completely different way other than their own ability, which is why I feel that no misconduct should be allowed. And by the time that it's happened, that it should never have happened in the first place, and it's their own fault and their own responsibility.
Okay, finally, Matt.
I think it highly depends on the level of which, if we're talking about plagiarism or we're talking about taking notes into an exam.
Let's stick with notes and exams.
Notes in an
That's
exam,
the one
okay.
we've used for everybody else.
All right. I believe that there is, if the structure there is not allowed, you are not entitled to do this, then it's very difficult to say generally what would happen. But I would say, for example, there are times when a student may take a blank piece of paper into an exam, write notes on it, and then get caught with a notes on a piece of paper. So there is going to be error to what's happening, and I think that on a first offence, there should be, like Harriet said, absolutely some sort of training session, something they have to submit to show that they understand what has happened and the reasons why it may not be acceptable. But I feel the system, the three-strike system, is one that we should use and continue using.
Okay. Right. As a VP, you'll be a trustee of the union, so you're part of the leadership panel. The leadership panel agrees the annual budget for the Students' Union. We've heard in previous debates about how much has been spent on media and societies. So you're looking at 23,000 on media, you're looking at about 14,000 on societies, you're looking at about 25,000 on union sports clubs, a lot more on Team Surrey. As VP Education, your budget this year sits at about £1,900. So when it comes to setting budgets, what case will you make for spending more money on education campaigns, bearing in mind that the only way you're going to get that money is by persuading your fellow VPs to reduce their budgets? So how will you, in fact, do you think you need to increase the education budget? And what case will you make for increasing that against reducing the sports, the societies, the media expenditure? Jasmine.
From what I've heard, the budget is spread really, really thin within education. So yes, I think there should be a slight increase in budget so that there gives the more of scope for there to be improvements. But I feel that the way of doing this is to work with the VP sports and the VP societies to be able to incorporate education and learning into other aspects of university. And I've said this in my manifesto that I feel that there are so many other ways that students can learn. It's not necessarily just about your course. So maybe it's not taking the money away from them, but working with them in a sense that it can incorporate education as well.
Thank you. Matt?
Well, come back to what I said earlier about the MOOCs. What stands you apart is your interaction in societies and sports and things like that. So the money that they have is important to distinguish you. However, education is what we're all here for. So if there was a requirement for more funding or more money, which, if I'm honest, I don't know what I would say and what the money is, and how much of it is spent. It's mostly going to be on awareness, and if we can do it cleverly, if we can do it in the right time, it might not need more budget. But if it does, then that's something that I will fight for, absolutely, because you can have as many sports as you want, but you're here to get a degree as well. So that's what I think.
Ashley?
Okay, well, obviously, I think education is very, very important. So the budget would be rather vital. But again, similar to everyone else, it depends on what the budget is being used for and if there's actually a need to negotiate. If there is, obviously, being a sabbatical team representing students, we should all be able to work together and figure out how that money can be dispersed if it needs to be moved from one place to the other through different cooperations with societies and sports, and now maybe actually all working together because we are all students and we are one community. So it should be in all of our interest to up our education. But it's entirely up to, again, as Matt actually said, if you can be strategic, there shouldn't really be much of a need.
I after this, I'm going to take one more question from Twitter, and then I will be coming to the audience. So please get your questions ready. Harriet.
I didn't actually realise that the budget was that low. I do think it needs to be increased. Whether or not that would be a combination of budgets sort of from other areas within the union or the university, I think if there could be a collaboration that would benefit both sides, I think that's something that's quite viable. And also working with particular sort of communities of students where they'd benefit particularly, I think that could be another area that we could look into as well.
Thank you. Now, the last time the university faced a major funding crisis was, you have to go right back to 1982. I was not here then. The University Funding Council, as they were then, wrote to the university announcing the severe cuts, and they recommended that the university closed the philosophy department. I've lost my little tip. As you can probably guess, the university gave in to their demands because we do not have a philosophy department at the moment. It is no secret that pressure is bearing down on the university financially. There is some large borrowing commitments. There is no capital funding, so any capital funding has to come from surpluses. So, imagine you are university management like you were in 1982. Which course goes in light of funding pressure? I will not accept a very nice answer of we shall all work together, because let me tell you, that was proposed in 1982. The Vice-Chancellor at the time said he wanted to share the pain and every department take a cut, and the University Council would not let him. And so philosophy had to go, and the union was part of that decision. So I want a justification of a course or a department that you think does not benefit the University of Surrey and that you could let go. Harriet.
Do you want a specific course that you want to close?
Maybe not one that I would close,
Sure.
one that one theoretically would close.
I'm afraid I don't know every single course that the university offers, but within my course, certain modules have had to be closed because there wasn't enough student intake. So I think, although it's an unpopular decision, I think the most viable would be to close the one with the least intake, the least uptake, and where we can look into sort of merging departments if that would save money. Like English and languages have merged, so whether that would be an option, I think it would be worth considering looking into.
Thank you. Ashley?
Again, you would have to actually look at how many students are taken in and how many actually are trying to get in as well. Unfortunately, no one wants to close down an educational course because you should be free to learn whenever you'd like. But again, merging would be logical. So if you can find a way to bring certain courses that could work very well together, then that would make logical sense and just make, yeah.
Jasmine?
I don't know whether it's necessarily looking at the intake and the outtake, but if you think of the way that the courses are and the way that we run in league tables, we're in the top 10 for a lot of courses. Possibly looking at where our courses come in league tables and looking at where we're struggling, where other universities may be benefiting around the area or potentially in other places in the country, where students can go to with the same entry requirements but will get just as good of an education. Maybe that's the way to look at it rather than our uptake.
Matt?
Automotive engineering, straight away.
Automotive engineering?
Yep.
I will admit I didn't even know that we did automotive
No,
engineering.
because it will be introduced next year.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
So that's a safe answer, I think.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. There you go.
I applaud you, sir.
But what I will say is that because the mechanical engineering department is so good that people that would want to do that could still get the same thing, like merging, etc. So there you go.
Congratulations. The floor. Let's hear. I beg your pardon? Sorry?
I said closed GSA.
Closed GSA. Oh, okay. You've just alienated 600 students. Well done.
Candidate for community officer.
It was a candidate for community officer. Okay, remember that. We've got a forest of hands coming up here. Sir, I saw yours first. Yes, you. Sorry, I'm doing a Dimbleby. The lady in the blue shirt. A mic, my kingdom for a mic. Calvin, run, boy. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hello. A lot of students at this university go on placement, obviously. I know a lot of people that didn't get any help in getting their placement and didn't use any of the resources from the university during their placement, but still had to pay, I think it's £500 fees.
$3,500. I think you're looking at.
No, for the placement year.
Yes, I think you're looking at about $3,000 for the placement year. And some.
Juice.
Ah, yes, with the 9,000. Okay, depends what year you're in.
All right. I'm final year now, so I think for me...
Right,
it's,
you're getting a bargain. You're getting a bargain compared to the first year.
Still, £500 to use none of the resources at all. Do the candidates think this is justified?
Right, so some debate over the cost. It is actually roughly about a third of a full-time course, which is why if you're paying £3,000 fees, actually you're paying just under about £1,000. You're paying £9,000 fees, you're paying about £3,000 for a placement year. Some students are getting no support, no visits, no contact. Placement is a thorny issue, and it's a very easy answer to say, well, yes, of course, I will campaign. But there's a reason why this is not happening, and there's lots of other pressures on academics. There's the REF, we've spoken about that earlier. Everybody wants their assessment and feedback done in 3 weeks. They've got to do their research, they've got to attend conferences, they've got to prepare lectures, they've got to do stuff in the VLE, and you can't just say to them, well, you've got to go out to Barbados and visit the hospitality students and go out to the Ukraine to visit the engineers. So how do we help these placement students practically? Matt.
Well, if it is an issue of travelling that sort of distance rather than going down like 20 minutes down the road.
Well, it's travelling and it's time.
Well, going back to VLEs now, virtual learning environments, there's money associated with them. They can provide very useful resources, and although I said definitely MOOCs aren't the way to go, you could incorporate them as well in order to give students that maybe don't have contact time a way of communicating with their lecturers, forums, things like that. Something that was mentioned yesterday while we were on placements was older students who had found placements, helping people currently looking for placements, which I thought was quite a good idea, in the sort of placement tutor, sort of mentor role, which would be quite nice. In terms of the money justified, in my personal experience of it, I had contact time. I think everyone should get a visit from a tutor, either on Skype or travelling to and actually visiting people, talking to because it's all about the development and getting the most out of it and making sure that you're not just sat in a corner making coffee and things like that. So I think definitely it should be a contact time, but you can use other methods if travelling for the lecturers is too much hard work.
Okay, Ashley?
I also went on placement. I just got back from Copenhagen the year before, and I did have my tutors actually come out to visit me, as well as actually having Skype conversations about my dissertation. So I know from my course standpoint, I have had a lot of support, and I've seen it actually work very well. So I'm aware that you can't always go out to like Madagascar or something and go see one of your students, despite one of our lecturers actually doing that, which was incredible. So there are virtual learning things that we can do. There should be a way for Surrey Learn to bring up forums on placements, which again, my faculty, we've taken this up, or at least my department, and we've talked about how to help our current placement students out there, and they do talk to us, and they say what their issues are when you've actually gone out, and that is incredible, and that is actually really, really necessary to actually spread across all the faculties. So it also relieves the pressure on the lecturers as a whole, because then it's not just them. You can talk to students who've actually been through these situations, worked with the companies, gone to the schools, gone to the different countries, or just similar circumstances. So there's ways to actually work together, again, and just hold everything. So it's a real shame that it doesn't actually spread across. Whether or not it's money justified, in my opinion, yeah, it was, because I got all I could out of it. For those who don't, then there's those questions about it. But if it's a problem, you should be able to go up to your lecturers afterwards and actually make it better for the students who are on placement right now. So if there was actually a problem, let's go fix it. There shouldn't be a problem.
Jasmine.
In answer to the question about, so you've already done your placement and you've paid the amount, when you're saying that you didn't use the resources and you didn't get any help, the resources are there, the careers fairs are there, already in place. If you don't use them, what fault is that of the university? You are paying those fees to get those resources and that help. And maybe you're not getting direct contact or you're not getting direct lecturer help, but the resources are there, the online resources, all of the things that have been implemented already, which, yes, probably do need to be strengthened. And also, maybe the lecturers do need to be told that they have to contact you a lot more or use the money in a completely different way. But if the resources are there for you to use, it is up to you as university students. We're not meant to be handed everything on a plate.
Harriet?
I think within the politics department, you have to do a placement report. I'm not sure if that's the same sort of throughout placements. So I think the resources are still there and they do need to be used. So I think that's one viable reason for still paying. I don't know whether that justifies the £500, but as Jasmine was saying, they are still available for you to use. I think that the visits and sort of the contacts should be happening. I think that if it's not, I think that's something we do need to work on. Again, the technology like Skype, emailing, if you do get stuck, I think you should actually sort of ask for help, not waiting. I don't know how many placement visits you'd get a year, maybe 1 or 2. If it's sort of quite a far trip, maybe just limit it to 1. Or if it's sort of local, try and get more frequent communication, because sort of the feedback you get from one student might be applicable to a student somewhere else. And if you get sort of different departments with people doing similar placements, I think people should share their feedback in case there are issues that arise sort of on multiple levels.
Right, I'm going to pick up on. I'm going to come back to that heckle, because there's a serious point behind that. I see somebody tweeted here, my inbox would be so much cleaner if we scrapped the dance department. At the moment, what is that? Well, you may laugh. However, the point I want to make about GSA students is many of them pay more. They have to be in lectures from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Their lectures are compulsory. They are not allowed to join sports clubs and societies. They do have a harder course. They do have to work on Saturdays. Why the antipathy towards GSA students? Why would somebody in the union shout out, close GSA, and the rest of the room laugh? Harriet?
Recently there has been a lot of, I've seen on Facebook there's sort of been, are GSA students as viable as sort of University of Surrey students? I think it starts off with sort of a small joke. I think that was what that was intended as. And then, but when you look at it deeper, I think there are sort of people do sort of feel there are issues. I spoke to the academic liaison staff in the library, and they've said that the law books have actually been moved from level 2 into the silent area of level 2. So that might be within that particular instance. That's sort of one way, so that they don't get sort of distracted or there's less confrontation. But I think they have as much right as anyone to be part of this, as sort of the use of facilities and be part of the University of Surrey.
So what specifically would you say to whoever was it shouted out, close GSA?
I think it's sort of a silly comment, but I think, if it was a joke, then if it's a cheap laugh, maybe.
Okay, Jasmine?
I think it's hard with GSA because I don't think that the majority of the students realise that they are part of our union and they are part of our university. They're seen as a completely separate entity, but they're not. They're involved with all of the things that we are involved in as best as they can be. Like it said, they're not allowed to go to sports and societies. They're not allowed to join clubs, and they do have to work every single day. And you say close GSA, but what benefit is that going to have to you personally? Because as students, you do think of them as a completely separate entity anyway. So yes, they are completely as part of our union and our university, but what benefit is it going to have to us to close them?
Matt?
Well, I think the stigma initially attached to them is that it's at the edge of campus, that they all have to wear black. They're immediately identifiable to everyone. So there could be people that really annoy you. This is the stigma, is that people will really annoy you throughout campus, but you can't see them and go, oh, it's GSA. That right, all of them are like that. So that's kind of where the stigma comes from. But I think that they do have a lot to offer as students, and they have a talent which I really, really don't have. So that's great. And that we can use that. I mean, I've had a lot of contact with them in Chancellors, for example, coming down to open mic night and like showing off what they can do. And I think that comment, Ian, was a bit silly, but there is a stigma to it, and we should try and do more to include GSA in things like events and societies and sports, really, I would say as well.
Ashley?
I couldn't agree more with everybody. Everyone's made a very clear point about GSA. They are still a member of our student body and everything. It's just a shame that they get a slight stigma because they're very passionate about what they do, and that I think is what's being misunderstood. Is they actually really, really enjoy what they do. It's no different than medias or sports who run around and you have sports nights and you scream and you all wear fancy dress for pub crawls and everything. It's just passion for what they do, and I think that unfortunately gets misunderstood as a little bit different, and different is always good, so I think they should definitely be part of our body.
Thank you. There was a forest of hands went up when asking the question on the floor. I'm specifically interested if we have any GSA or failing that, any art students in the room that wish to comment. Any GSA students here tonight? No, they're probably working. Any art students that want to make a comment, or anybody who wants to make a comment? Sorry? There's a hand up over there. I can't see because of the lights. Where's Calvin the mic man? Oh, he's gone home. There he is there. Calvin. There's a hand over there, apparently. Follow the voice. It's like the Crystal Maze, yeah? There we are. Stop the clock. I've got the crystal. Annika Rice, treasure hunt. Yes, we're on a golf course now. This is going well.
Oh.
In the gloom in the corner. Oh dear, that's rugby corner. Careful. You might never come back, Calvin. Oh, we've lost him. There's Andy. Andy, are you anywhere near a mic, or can you just shout and I'll repeat your question?
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah,
well, we got a
over
mic.
there.
Oh, there's the voice in the darkness.
I just want to go back to a previous point where talking about placements and saying that placement students should go out and use the resources available to them. I'm on placement at the moment, and the resources available to me are terrible. My tutor comes out to me twice a year, and in our meetings, all she tells me is she's making me say how my course relates to my placement, but it doesn't. And things like Surrey Learn, they aren't that helpful for while you're on placement, because our lecturers go on about using it, but they rarely post on it, and if they do, it's a month before we've got a deadline. So I just want to know how you would improve that experience for placement students.
Okay.
And things like careers fair, they aren't that good from my experience. They cater to 2 departments in the university, which I won't name, and if you don't do any of those courses, you aren't helped out to fund placement.
There we are. Right, let's take some more comments. We've had some discussion about placement, but there's lots of hands up, so I'd like to take lots of comments, maybe a few questions as well from the audience. Calvin, one right next to you there. Get in. So,
I have a question, if that's okay.
Well, let's just take lots of questions, and we can see what the candidates can do. Fire away.
Basically, year on year, we see VP Educations come up and they say, I'm going to improve the feedback that we get for our exam results and our coursework. And everyone says that I'm going to strive to keep within the 3-week mark that we're promised. Year on year, we see the 3-week mark passed and we still don't have results and feedback. Do you think maybe it's time that we should start working harder to meet those deadlines, or do you think it's time that that deadline was extended?
Good point. Right, I'm going to repeat these questions, and you're going to be quick fire on your answers. Let's have another question. Calvin, there's a chap over here at the front. He's had his hand up quite a few times. Well done. This gentleman here.
Hello, everyone. Everyone's been talking about placements and how students aren't using the resources that are available to them. Would it be possible to opt out of those services in order to save money?
Possible to have a placement light, if you like. Right, okay. Placement on the cheap. Are you getting all this? I'm going to take one more. This is what it's like in a university committee. Andy.
This isn't a question, it's just a comment regarding GSA.
Okay.
As a theatre student and as a valid member of the School of Arts, of which GSA is also a part of, I find myself benefiting massively from the access to GSA. Not only do I receive a further 15 studio spaces, I also receive access to professional staff professional production teams, and professional spaces. And the use of the Ivy Arts Centre, which is majorly run by GSA faculty and students, is of massive benefit to me. So shutting down GSA would be a massive negative on this university.
Thank you very much. Let's see if we can take one final question. There's Calvin, if you can get to it. There's a guy over there by the lift. If it's not, we've got 2 placement questions. So if it's something not related to placements, that would be lovely.
So next year, the university, as Sadler says, is opening automotive engineering, which is going more down the engineering route.
Right.
It's also opening a School of Veterinary Science.
Yep.
Which direction do you think is more important for the university? Broadening the options of subjects or becoming more specific in the ones we already do?
Good question, sir. Right, we've got 4 questions there. These are really quick fire answers, okay? And I'm going to go from my right to my left, so Harriet, you'll be starting. So let's just recap. We have another point about the support we get on placement. We've got a question there about the 3-week deadline. Do we just give it up as a bad job and forget all about that? Would you support an option to have placement light, no support, cheaper fees, and do you think the university should broaden its portfolio of courses or concentrate on specialities? Let's have quick sentence answers, please.
With regards to the turnaround on the feedback, I think we could utilise Surrey Learn a lot more. So rather than having to sort of hand into the sort of the registration office, I think posting it up online and then waiting for so once it's been regulated and everything, that might be able to reduce those. The opt-out clause, I think, is a good idea, but I think there'll be lots of practical issues that would have to be sort of looked over. So whether or not you'd still be able to get your student discount as well would be one reason.
All right, and the portfolio?
So what was the...
So the portfolio answer, should the university broaden its portfolio of courses or specialise in, say, engineering?
I think one criticism I regularly hear is that the University of Surrey doesn't have a history department. So whether or not that would be sort of broadened into the Faculty of Arts and Human Sciences, I think that would be a good idea.
History, it's old news. Jasmine, placement, the 3-week deadline, do we give it up? Placement light and the portfolio of courses.
Okay, a 3-week deadline. From what I've seen, this has been promised every single time, and it doesn't seem to happen. But it is something that will take a long time because there's so many things that need to be put into it. So I think that it should still be concentrated on, but it shouldn't be promised by candidates anymore. It's one of those things that has been promised every single year, and it's still not there. So it can still be concentrated on, but not be in presidential candidacy. The opt-out service for saving money with placement. A lot of the degrees are accredited by institutions and things like that. So do you want to lose your student accreditation, or would you rather pay the money? You need to have, I think that's one of those surveys that we'd have to look at the student
and the
body.
portfolio of courses?
And the portfolio, I think that we should be more specific. We get enough intake for the courses that we have. Why not make them better?
You want to concentrate on specialisms. Matt, I'm hurrying you here because I'm going to fit one more sentence in at the end.
The 3-week deadline issue is an issue. I think that we should continue to get 3 weeks. And
all right, stick with it. Stick with the deadline. Placement light?
I don't think so. No. I think
and broader courses or specialism?
Broader courses to allow for more different people at this ever-growing great university.
Concise. Ashley?
First of all, 3 weeks, I think, is for too short a time if you have a large course. And I also believe if it's over 150, the lecturer can actually go to 4 weeks. So they do have an actually extended length. But if we're going to 6-7 weeks, yeah, you have cause to say what's going on. That's fair enough, and we can figure out how to fix that. Maybe portionally. With regards
placement light?
No, don't leave the university. Like it's your community. It's also your ability to access email, see what's going on at your university beyond just going on to the homepage.
Okay, and the portfolio of courses?
Broaden it. More people. That's a lot more different interests.
Great. I'm going to finish with one question. I want you to answer in one sentence, and I mean one sentence. I'm going to cut you off, and I'm going to go from my left to right. Fees in the UK are £9,000. The greatest university system in the world is in the United States of America. They have no cap on fees. Convince me why the UK should keep a cap on fees. Ashley?
I think you should keep a cap on fees mainly because if we went to a US system, I think it'd be a massive shock to the system. The amount that they pay there is
One sentence is up. Matt.
We should keep cap on fees. It allows more people from less rich backgrounds to come here, which is what we've got here at Surrey.
Jasmine.
Keep the cap on fees because it broadens the amount of people that we can have and gives the experience to lots of people, the same as Matt.
Harriet.
Keep the cap on fees because it enables you to plan financially.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the candidates for VP Education.
Hello, welcome back to Pundits Corner. I'm David. Here we are being broadcast live by Stag Media on YouTube with StagTV on 13:50 AM and online through Stag Radio. And we are the Stag with us, keeping an update on all what's happening on Twitter. First up, as you can see, I'm with Pundits again. I want to talk about Zoe, who couldn't be here today, as you know, Priya, because she was unwell. How do you think this is going to affect her chances?
I think she'll have to campaign hard throughout the rest of the week. Definitely. Question time is it's changed my opinion on some of the candidates throughout yesterday and today. So I think she'll definitely have to get out and talk to a lot of people because it's definitely a missed opportunity, unfortunately, for her.
Yeah, true. Obviously, for the candidates that were here today, they got a chance to talk about placement year, which was a big point, Barry. What were your thoughts on what they discussed about the opting out and stuff?
Well, I think they went through some of the arguments both for and against. In relation to the fees charged, 3,500 is a lot of money if you don't get any service back from it, and it's all very well saying it's up to you to go and get it. But if it's not possible to do that, then I think that's something that has to be looked at very carefully, and there has to be a student view, which is communicated to the university, so they understand exactly what the difficulties are.
And Trung, in favour of the opting out sort of side, do you think that's a good idea?
That's actually a really interesting idea. It's quite an interesting proposal. I think it could work because if you want to opt out, you're going to opt out anyway, or you're not going to provide services. So by doing that, you could save money, yeah.
And Paul, how have people reacted on Twitter?
People have mainly been talking about the differences between their own placements, so the fact that each course is very different. Some people it's to do with a marked part of their course, some people it's not. Some people say it's very important for them, some people like, so there's a lot of different things that it's really hard to get a good grip on what people are saying regarding the placement years.
So has any one of the candidates really shone out?
We've had a few people shining out in there. Some people, there's no real clear person standing out ahead, but there are a group of people out of those which have just, done better than others.
Okay, thank you. On to the accreditation of courses, which is of course mentioned, Mike. What do you think of that idea?
Having done civil engineering, if my course wasn't accredited, I'd find it very difficult to work towards my chartership. Now, I don't entirely know how the process works for things like accountants and sort of other chartership processes, but the accreditation means that it actually gives your course some element of conviction almost. And now, I'm not saying that obviously those that aren't accredited are rubbish courses or anything like that. Sort of similar courses that are in different subjects, it very much relates on what you want to do with your degree after you've got it. Some people just study the subject because they enjoy doing the subject, which is fine. Some people do it because they want to progress into a career. I think you'll find that with sort of aerospace engineers and sort of more potentially the FEPS side of things. Although saying that, theatre studies and sort of bits and pieces like that, they obviously are looking to go towards that. They're not going to do theatre studies and then potentially go and start building rocket engines. I don't know, you might get the odd exception, but potentially stereotyping there. But accreditation's important. Paying for accreditation, I think, with the cap potentially being in question, I think that would cause a bit more almost conflict between university choices because people vote with their feet, and the feet are often linked to their pockets.
Yeah. Obviously, GSA was mentioned there, Barry. What were your thoughts on some of the comments?
Well, GSA, the students are in a difficult position, and I think the union have tried to support them all they can, and I think that's exactly the approach to take. If they're banned by their department from taking part in the full range of union activities, then there's not much they can do. I know the union have always tried hard to support them, but if they're working 6 days a week and not allowed to take part in some activities, then there's a limit to what they can do.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to understate the value of the GSA across the university piece, which I think the question from the audience or the comment from the audience underlined, which I think is entirely relevant, that it's a massive department for some people within the university who do appreciate what it brings.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people, as we've seen, they underestimate how important it is to aid to the people who go to GSA and to the university as a whole.
Absolutely.
If I can just just cut in there, I might be stepping on Paul's toes a little bit. I actually found quite a nice tweet to sort of summarise this, which was I think from Sam_Beza, but he or she says, but I really enjoy it when GSA students sing as they walk through silent areas of the library. Now, I mean, although that's not
that tweet was actually followed by a long knot.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
I enjoyed it.
There has been a large people on Twitter defending GSA, and a lot of arts people as well, people defending their own degrees and their worth, saying, look at the people that have come out of them, look at the courses, so the buildings, the things around it, and everybody values their own courses. It was, a very difficult thing to come up. But yeah, there's a lot of that on Twitter going around of people trying to defend GSA and some people speaking against it.
Okay, Priya, you're currently VP Education. Course reps is something that is ongoing at the moment. Is there any way you see any of these candidates being able to take that forward and may improve it?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely work to be done on course reps. I've worked really hard on it this year. There's things I'm changing this year that I've changed, and hopefully certain aspects of it will have already changed this year, which will make it easier for the next VP Education to come into a system that's more fluid, and course reps will be elected more easily, and hopefully there will be a way of raising the awareness of course reps and just getting students to actually speak to their course reps, because that's what's been really difficult this year.
Yeah, and Trung, obviously, carrying on from that, how do you feel that communication can be better, perhaps between students and then their course rep? Because I think some people, they don't even know who their course rep is, and how are they meant to go through their course rep if they've got a problem?
Yeah, that's the key thing. You do have the course rep assembly. The key is that the people who are then elected have to then, in a way, develop themselves in sort of being charismatic, to be able to go out there, present themselves to their fellow students in the same manner that elected sabbaticals and part-time officers have to as well. So it's taking that role, and you can take it as a way of improving yourself as well, getting out there and actually pressing students for their feedback.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time here, so Barry, last point is on fees. Obviously, tuition fees, they're quite high as it is, they've gone up recently. Any quick point you can make on that?
Quick and contentious. I mean, it seems to have gone to 9,000 fairly quickly to me, and accessibility, if you're upwards of 27,000 to do a course, then I think it excludes a lot of the poorer people anyway. I mean, I'm a bit of a lefty on this, I must say, but I don't know how else that the universities can be funded, which is the issue. That if you don't.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there, we'll run out of time. This has been VP Education, and up next we have VP of Sports and Recreation.